The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Welcome to GRASPP Beyond, where we talk everything paranormal. Ghosts, hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and just plain weird phenomena. We are GRASPP, gathering research and stories of paranormal phenomena. We have 15 years under our belts, and we are still learning. Find out more about us at www.grasp.org or www.grasp.info. Email us at graspbeyond@grasp.org. And the GRASP has 2 P's in it. We're streaming live on Facebook right now. Join us for our show and ask us your burning questions about the paranormal. Our host tonight is me, Kathy Clark.
Mike Powers.
And we have some guests here tonight. We have Brandon.
Yep.
And we have Wayne.
Hi.
And they are from?
Well, a couple different things. Right? But we're familiar with the studio because we do shows every other week here with Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters Paranormal Podcast, a similar format because it's the mysterious. We started out with paranormal, and the Bigfoot people told me we're not paranormal. So I changed it to just the mysterious. Brandon and I have been doing that show for a couple years now.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a member of Kent County Paranormal. That's my team. We were previously Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters, but that's been a lot of fun. I've been investigating myself for about 9 years or so.
Right. Okay. Stuff on the table represents some of the cases that Brandon and I have been on. Mm-hmm. It's pretty complete. It's not exactly complete, but it represents the commercial properties at least. You guys know, being paranormal investigators, confidentiality comes into play when you're at private homes. Yep. Right? I mean, we've seen ghosts. Brandon's seen full-form apparition. We could pick one of these out of here, any one of them that you'd like to talk about, but Brandon's seen full-form apparition. That's kind of rare.
Yeah.
That is pretty rare.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. But I kind of want to discuss a little bit of this wingman thing we got going on. Now, when I first met you guys, you were Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So are you just kind of winging it, doing your own thing now?
Well, Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters no longer investigates, but what I do is ministry for people who are oppressed by unseen forces. So I go into their homes, smudge, and I work with an ordained minister. And we do, like I say, ministry for people who are possessed, people who are suffering from spells, witchcraft, different things. We treat them the same. I go in, I smudge. It's the kind of smudging that everybody's familiar with. It's a pagan ritual. But so we've gone away from that, but then we do the paranormal podcast together.
Yeah, that's what the Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters, as a team, it's kind of been, the name's been retired. Like the team, the rest of my team became Kent County Paranormal. So like Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters is pretty much just like the podcast name now, because that was the original show we started as.
Okay.
And Kent County Paranormal is a separate podcast and team, so.
Okay. Right. Rather than confuse people in the middle, we kept the name. Yeah. Because we'd already had several shows, including GRASPP. Yeah. We had you guys on there. Was Correct. Our first team that we had on. Kathy, you were on there with
I
Bill,
was on there.
Right?
Yep. Okay, so you're not investigating so much anymore as doing more of the cleansing and more of the spiritual. What am I reaching for here? More of the religious side.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Protection, you'd say.
Okay, and so you're doing more of the investigating side.
Yeah, and then we still help. Well, as of right now with Kent County Paranormal, we've kind of, with the whole COVID thing, especially because Dan's like one of our, he was like the pastor and stuff, so we've kind of taken a break from home investigations because of COVID and kind of that situation. But eventually we'll probably will take it back up again. But right now we're just doing kind of more like maybe like some businesses or just kind of stuff on the side. But we're taking a break from because we want to be able to have him there with us when we investigate place, especially if it's something with a darker entity or something like that, you know.
Correct. And are you taking a little break too? You're finding that COVID is creating an issue with that, or
Actually, I've been doing the ministry even during the COVID.
have you been finding you're a lot busier?
I think it's going to pick up. And look what's happening, you know, in the world. There's people that are dying alone. So how can all these spirits be at rest? I know the families aren't. There's so much out there right now, especially for somebody like Brandon being empath, you know, or he's been more empathic all the time and feels it. I think more though than most people do.
And I think it's one of the things, like, it's not just me. I think it's like being an investigator. For me, I was much more, like, I believed in the paranormal, but I didn't really, kind of came to it from a sense where I didn't really sense things. And, like, the more I've done it, the more it's opened me up in terms of that sense. And there's been, like, other members of our team that's done, like, the same thing where they've opened up a lot more. When they started, you know, you didn't really have that. But I think the more you're in it, the more it can open you up to be able to sense things or be able to see things and hear things that you probably previously might not have either been able to pay attention to or just not had that ability because you've closed yourself off to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm using more crystals than ever. You know, I got the moldavite around my neck right now. Just I never knew about these crystals before. But
Moldavite, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent stone.
after doing these shows, becoming more familiar with the different areas of the paranormal, I've changed and evolved, just like you guys have evolved into UFOs and Bigfoot and cryptids. I mean, that's what Brandon did with his team. He moved on to different areas of the paranormal where it was Grand Rapids ghost hunters. And I was fine with that, just hunting ghosts. You know, that's what my grandfather did. At 5 years old, my grandfather told me how to communicate with ghosts because he had did it several times. He actually dug up bones that were people.
Wait, so you mean he disturbed the resting place of people?
Well, if you consider the basement, cemented in the basement wall and floors after being disbodied, their resting place, they weren't at rest. It wasn't until he followed the ghost to their remains, they dug them up and then buried them in a cemetery, said a few words over them, then they were at rest. I thought that's what was going to happen. I was disillusioned when I became a ghost hunter. We never dug up any bones.
Yeah, it's a pretty rare occasion when that actually happens, but you know, it still does. What have you been doing, like, in the recent, let's say, since January? Have you had anything, like, exciting popping up? Anything of interest? Anything new?
Well, COVID's kind of ruined, like, kind of everything because we took, like, a complete break. Like, we did one where we went to and, like, investigated, like, a home. It was like a friend of one of our team members. We kind of investigated, like, their property a little bit, but I don't have all the results yet because that was just recently, so I don't know if we found anything or not. But we did kind of an interesting Estes. Like, I was doing one, I was getting much more religious. The other person doing it was getting much more, like, dark, perverted stuff. So it was kind of a weird clash between, because that's what we like to do is have two different people doing the Estes method and see if, because, like, sometimes we've done it, we've had, like, the two people communicating with each other. And you know, when you're doing Estes, you don't know what anybody else is saying. You don't know what the questions are, you know.
So some of our folks out here that are actually watching on Facebook, they might be wondering, what is the Estes method?
Yeah. So the Estes method was developed by Connor Randall and Carl Pfeiffer. They kind of ran, like, the ghost tours at the Stanley Hotel, which is the inspiration for The Shining on Estes Park, Colorado. So that's why it's the Estes method. And basically, the way that they developed it is you have headphones on and a blindfold. And the headphones are it blocks, because you use, like, drummer headphones, so you're not hearing what's going on, like what questions. Because the problem with the ghost box session, when you have a ghost box running, is everybody's listening to it, and your mind's just picking up. Like, if you ask a question, like, what's your name? Well, when it's sweeping through the channels, your brain is looking for a name. So, like, if you hear anything that's close to a name.
Here's it sweeping through the channels. And then one person's got a blindfold on, or two people, like Brandon's saying.
Did you just hear that? I just heard hello.
I did. I just heard that.
Well, we got room full of spooky people. What do you expect?
Who knows what we're all tracking in here with us?
Yeah, it is true.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Estes method, something that's coming up later on in the show. So I'm not going to get too involved in that, but that's interesting that you bring that up because that's
Yeah.
going to be part of our interesting paranormal summit that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But I wanted to know if you had anything interesting coming up, anything interesting that you've done in the last couple
Well,
of
like I
months.
say, I still get calls for it. It's not like I'm advertising a lot. If I don't get a call, I'm happier because I think maybe the universe is okay. But I did a case, and Beverly Fish has turned it over. She's a demonologist, one that we had on the show last year. Little petite, older woman.
Yep, quite familiar with
Yeah,
it.
so nice. But you wouldn't think she was a demonologist. I don't know. I didn't associate that with demonology. But yeah, she passed the case on, and actually GRASPP looked into that case because it's one of those, when you tell somebody, no, you're not, it's nothing paranormal. Now, we treat it the same with what we do because the ministry's hands-on, and it doesn't matter if we get a sign that there's something paranormal or not. They're still suffering from these attachments. Anger is a big attachment that people can't get around sometimes. Love is a real big attachment, and it's one that you're going to take with you, but it can mess you up here on this. If you get it too extreme, love can do bad things to a person, really. It's not all good. And like I say, anger, and we deal with those attachments, whether there's anything haunted or not. But he, in this case, I didn't find anything haunted.
Well,
in my
okay,
last case.
my question for that part is if someone's, I guess, delusional in the aspect of believing that they're haunted, with you going in there, even with nothing being found, no evidence whatsoever, aren't you just feeding into their
I felt like we
pathological-
fed into it already, and that's why I told my partner, the minister, I can't go back, because if we had found anything, usually when you're telling the spirits or the entity that it has to leave, you get a response. And so even though I don't use any of the instruments, well, I still measured for EMFs. I measured for EMFs. None of this stuff happened there. There wasn't any signs of anything paranormal, and I recorded the whole time. And usually when you're leaving a place, you got your hand on the knob, you're leaving, that's when the spirits get brave, and then that's when they tell you to get out, just like that. It doesn't matter where they're at, they seem to have the same quality to them. But yeah, I think I fed into is
I was gonna say I'm not quite sure about that. I've had some right in the middle of anything. One punch me.
oh
Yeah. They were brave enough to do it before I even left.
Yep.
But yeah, that's one of my big concerns is feeding into people's delusions.
right,
Yeah.
and that's why I wouldn't go back. I told them what the results were, and there just weren't any. No one else in the family had experienced anything. The pets, nothing. No signs, no recordings, nobody else hearing or seeing anything. It was just one person, and that person happened to be. I look around whether they were on prescription drugs that can cause hallucinations.
Yep.
But I look around, when I go to a place, I look around, is there a bunch of beer bottles? Are they on prescription drugs? I usually ask things like that. Have you brought artifacts into your house? Because usually what they want to know right away is, how did I get it? Why is it affecting me?
And why did it suddenly start?
Yeah. So those answers are hard, especially after you haven't even done anything to investigate it, how you answer that. But they think that they've done something wrong. These attachments you don't have to do anything wrong. You don't have to invite them in. Although some people seem to be magnets for them.
Agreed.
And then, you guys are sensitive, aren't you?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yep.
I thought you were empath, Mike, and Kathy, you were sensitive.
She's more of a medium.
Kind of. I don't know. I don't like to put labels on things.
I know. We put labels on everybody that comes to our show in here, and they're more than that. They keep telling me that. You can't just label me that.
Yeah.
So how do they use you when they send you in?
They have there's different qualities when you encounter spirits. First of all, I guess we should probably lay this out, that not everything that you've encountered, if you've encountered something, is necessarily human.
All right.
There are other entities walking around on this earth that can mimic things very well.
Especially little children.
But generally, what I tend to have is I tend to have spirits come to me that want me to pass on messages. And, you know, they're annoying. And and they don't always choose the best time, like 3 a.m. doesn't always work for me because I have a job. But, you know, they just they choose to use me however. Sometimes it's not always real obvious either.
You get these
Sometimes-
remote messages at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they're really annoying, like knocking on the door constantly, like, hey, if you don't deliver this, I'm going to keep bothering you, that kind of thing. And anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
So they just kind of choose to use me however they want to use me. And sometimes I have to tell them no when they don't like that.
But I'm wondering, do you go in first? Does GRASPP send you in first? Or do you
Sometimes.
separate yourself from them so you're not sharing any of your insights with them?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to share anything that I know until after we've done an investigation.
Yep, we keep a side journal.
Yep, I'm not allowed to share any of that information because I don't want to mislead anybody.
Right. I
I
like
don't want
that
them
approach.
to look at something and say, "Oh, well, because she experienced this
yeah.
here."
Kathy
know.
said there was something over here.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen.
Right.
So I just I try to keep my mouth shut and wait till it's over, and then we discuss it.
Well, Brandon and I did we've been with GRASPP on a couple cases. The most disciplined team I've ever come across, you guys.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No,
We have
about
we have a
that.
hard issue with telling our equipment when we're entering a room or leaving.
Well, oh, really? Well, that was what I was referring to. How you guys enter a room, you say something like entering a room or something.
Entering dining room, entering pantry or whatever. We've been
Sometimes we slack on that a little.
we lax on it a little
Okay.
bit. Just, you
Especially
gotta-
when you get later in the night, you start getting a little slap happy.
Yeah, you get tired. And if you actually are in a place where you're under the influence of spirits, and sometimes you come into some place and they're very heavy, and you know that can actually take a big toll on you and make you make mistakes when you're doing an investigation, because you're fighting so hard to shield yourself from what's actually coming at you that all these other things that you have to remember, you're not remembering, or you're not, you know, it's falling to the wayside because you're getting wore out. So, and we do see that happen a lot, especially as it gets later and everybody gets more tired, and, you know, so there's those things too.
I think we've investigated some of the same places, besides the ones that we did together. The Kirby house, we went out there, and there was this jukebox. They had these jukeboxes playing so loud. There was like a war going on inside the building in the middle of the night, and voices and
Between
stuff.
between the video games and the jukebox, and you have all the equipment. It was hard really to get anything out of there just because of the noise contamination.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yep. So anything like big on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah, we're still just kind of doing our podcast right now. So right now we don't really have like a whole lot planned. Just because like with COVID, it's so hard to really, right now it's so hard for us to schedule anything.
We might do something together. It's a little bit of a secret. We might do a cemetery together with one of our
Yeah.
mutual friends.
Still trying to work out the details yet of that. So
So I may come out of retirement for that. Something special with some friends.
yeah,
So some hush hush for right
Right.
now. Huh?
yeah, it's not officially on the books yet. So it's planned, but not a date set or anything yet. So.
We have the second and the fourth Wednesday reserved into 2022 here at the studio.
Oh, excellent.
So, I mean, we're booked through this year, and so we're going to go strong. I tell you, the virus about did me in. You know, we did 5 shows, canceled 6, and after canceling 6 shows in a row, I said, well, maybe I'm done. Maybe it's a good time to just stop. And then I had a friend who started her own radio station, so I could do a show out of her radio station.
Just drag you back in.
She dragged me back in. Next thing you know, I was here in the parking lot pushing to get back in here, and so here we are in the new studio, the new expanded, so we can keep our distancing.
Yeah, social distancing.
Right. So we've got things planned. Like I say, we're scheduled through the year. Some of the guests we've had already have been incredible. I've been over my head talking Fibonacci. I'm like, what? Yeah, some of the people we have are really incredible. Some of the UFO people too are far out.
Oh, I love the UFO people. They're crazy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you wonder. We came in dressed as the Men in Black for the one show. We have
right.
some fun with it. Halloween, we dressed up. So
I didn't because nobody passed the
Yeah,
message on to me. So I show up and like I'm dressed normal and everybody else is dressed up. I'm like, well, somebody could have passed that on to me.
He did not get the memo.
Right. So he's going to be
So
ready
I'm the only
this
one
year,
not
though.
dressed up,
'cause
yeah.
We can have fun with this. You know, when I'm on a case, or when I was on cases, I was serious. I was dead serious. I was like reverent. You know, I thought the respect that you needed there was. So I was really serious, except when we went to the Allegan County Jail. I don't know what happened there.
Something was influencing you there.
Something influenced me.
Got it on there?
I hope it.
We're checking Facebook.
Checking
We got
Facebook
some
apparently.
stuff
Yeah,
coming
these
in.
guys are going live Facebook.
So while he's checking on the Facebook thing, I'm going to talk about how COVID screwed with our group too.
Oh yeah. Okay, good. Yeah.
Well, for mine, it's like even like your paranormal summit. Like I had planned to go, and then the COVID thing wiped it out, and then they got rescheduled to a day I couldn't get off. So like I was
Yeah.
so bummed.
Well, unfortunately, we annually would do the walking tours in Grand Haven, and that was a big popular thing. We did them in the summertime, and we'd do them around Halloween, and unfortunately, those had to get canceled this year because of the whole COVID thing, because you know the social distancing and. When it's cold and it's October, you kind of like want to group everybody together to do those walking things, and you can't really do that. So that kind of, and of course, the Paranormal Summit got pushed forward. Sorry, I'm kind of reading off my thing here. We also had a up north training because we're getting more into the cryptids and that kind of thing, and we were actually going to go for Bigfoot hunting. I believe that you were going to go
Yeah, I
on that
plan
as
on
well.
going that in September. Yeah.
So that had gotten pushed back, not only because of the COVID, because last year we had that and it got pushed back as well. But it got pushed back from COVID. And now we're actually going to be doing that. Yay, that's what's on our horizon. And that's UP training. And that was with Rich Meyer. And he's from the Upper Peninsula Bigfoot Sasquatch Research Organization. Did I
Which
get
is
that
a
right?
very long name.
It's a very long name, but they're very talented people, and they know exactly what they're doing
Yeah.
up there. And we actually have the privilege of going up with Rich, and we're going to get some one-on-one Bigfoot training. And I think that's pretty exciting, and hopefully COVID doesn't mess with that some more.
All right. Did you sign up for that, Brandon?
Yeah, I plan on going to that in September. Yeah.
Yep, September. And then, of course, we were talking about the Paranormal Summit, which got pushed forward. We did eventually have that in May. A couple of your team members were
Yeah.
there. And that was on the SS City of Milwaukee up in Manistee. What a great ship. We had a lot of fun on there. First night we were there was only like a couple of us there. It was a Friday night, and we had the run of both ships. That was great.
Well, I was going to say, why don't you talk about the other ship, the Arcadia?
Yeah, that was an interesting time. So everybody got a tour of the Arcadia and
Oh,
is it
Acacia.
Acacia? Okay.
My
My
bad.
bad. So we were on the Acacia, and I actually got a full body apparition on that. He kind of freaked me out a little bit.
You saw a full form apparition?
Yes, absolutely. And he was not in any of the usual places where they told us to look. So he was actually just kind of like walking down the hallway out the door.
Was he in any sort of uniform?
He was. He was in a uniform, and he totally caught me by surprise because normally I've got like the spirit radar going, and that wasn't happening. So it's just like I turned around and there he was. And that was like the
Residual?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Probably.
wondering.
Probably. It was really bizarre though for me because things like that normally don't have that ability. So
Yeah, maybe residual energy. Because he didn't
Yeah.
wave at you.
Nope, he didn't recognize, he didn't like acknowledge me.
Right.
He was just walking out the door.
Still cool.
Yeah, and
Way cool.
I turned white, and everybody,
Oh, yeah.
like Bill, come in, and he's like, "Are you okay?" Because that's not a normal thing for me either, not a normal response. So the whole thing kind of threw me off, and I didn't go back on that ship after that.
Yeah. You know,
I kind of stayed on the other one.
it's easy to coach. Don't be afraid. They're more afraid of you than you are of them, but till it happens, I
Right,
have no
right.
idea.
Yeah, and it was just kind of weird. I don't know, because it wasn't like any of the apparitions that I was expecting to see something else, I guess. And it was just like, oh, hey, look, there's that dude. So, I don't know. Anyway.
Nice.
But yeah, that's where we were, and we did the Paranormal Summit there.
And that's all about para-unity. That's what you guys are
It is.
pushing
Yeah,
for.
we're about to get into that.
Right.
Yep. And so I just wanted to plug this a little bit for the city of Milwaukee. They are going to be doing a ghost ship in October, and that runs all 4 weekends in October. So if you see me looking off to the side, Connie's over here, and I'm just double checking facts with her.
She's our so-called director.
Oh,
So what's going on Facebook there?
Nothing.
no questions?
No.
Okay.
Just
Everybody's sleeping.
Clint goes, "Yeah, I found your show again.
Hey,
Love the
all right.
set."
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
nice set.
And then Heather says hi.
Oh, Heather's on there too. All right, hi. So we had the Paranormal Summit on the city of Milwaukee, and that was a fun time. It was a whole weekend, and the whole theme of the Paranormal Summit is para-unity. And so we're kind of like trying to get groups together, currently just local groups, and individuals that are in the professional field of the paranormal. And so we're kind of just trying to set some guidelines, I guess, is what's really coming down. We want to all work together, but we can't gather evidence and say that we actually have evidence unless we're all practicing it the same way, because you cannot compare apples to oranges. They have to be the same in order to make a good comparison.
Yeah, you need some kind of standard.
Yes. So that was kind of what it was about. This first one was kind of just gathering some people together to make, I guess, a bit of a council to figure out what we need to do for that and how to make those standards, and how do we all work together when we've got all of these different egos and all these different people who are trying to push in a direction that they think is right. So we kind of have to figure out, what are those standards going to be? And so that was part of what we had discussed, was how do we do that? How do we do that? How do those people, how do people join that, and how do we make that a unified thing so that we're not like, this is my spot and this is where I get to investigate.
Well, it's an
And that is one of the things with the paranormal field. There are places that this is our turf, where you have like paranormal teams are almost kind of like, like not in terms of illegal activity, but in the kind of like gangs, where this is our street turf. You know?
Yeah,
This is
this
our
is my
turf.
county.
Yeah, and it's like, it shouldn't be like that. We should all be working together.
Well, not
Even if
only
it's a
that.
location that's kind of your home base, letting some other teams in that are responsible, like they might get different results. They might give you more information that you didn't have. So you shouldn't be afraid of, I can't let anybody else investigate my area,
Right. Well, not only that,
And
but
that
they use
you're
different
closing
equipment.
yourself. Well,
That's
yeah.
that's
You
the
know.
point I wanted to make. And equipment's changing all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So
if
it's hard
you're
to set a
using
standard
something that's
for-
inferior, and that team's got something better,
Yeah.
come on over.
Yeah.
I want to use some of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Actually, just recently, I mean, like literally a couple days ago, I just spent $300 on the best Mel meter out there for our group,
Wow.
which has got
Multifunction.
multifunction. It produces its own EMF field around its antenna, so that way it blocks out other types of radiation and stuff like that. And yeah, I actually can't wait to get that out in the field and try it out.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yep. And it
Probably does
even has its own
temperature.
laser grid too. Right on the top.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that way you don't have to carry 5 or 6 different things.
Yeah.
But you got $300 invested in it.
Yeah. Well,
That's okay.
sometimes it's
Just make sure you don't leave it somewhere.
that's right.
Which we've had happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, our
so-
teams had that happen where they left something and never got
That's
it
okay.
back.
I was gonna say I bought it for the group. If the group loses it, it's their responsibility now.
Yeah.
I'm just covered on the insurance for
Yeah.
a couple of years.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's something we all want to do. Is we want to, we want to share our findings, and particularly if you've got you've got a family who's having some real trouble, and maybe your equipment's not picking something up, or you are not the expert on that particular issue. Don't you want to have another group that you can lean on and say, hey, you've been doing this a lot longer. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's really important for us to make those connections, those networks, and those friendships, so that we can all gather together and,
Yeah. And that's
work
from
that stuff
one of my
out.
things, just from my perspective, is when we were Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters, I was on a team prior to that. We were kind of doing everything on our own. We didn't have any other teams to reach out to, Whereas with you guys kind of bringing us in and everything, it's it's so nice because you have so many other teams. We've been able to network with so many other people, and having the podcast too has been a great way to do that. Because there's so much more to learn from other people that
Right.
can make you better at being a better investigator or being able to better help clients and stuff like that.
And
you
vice
know?
versa. I mean, there's been plenty of things that we've shown other groups and they have taken on themselves. So oh, that's actually better than what we do.
Yeah.
And we've done the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right away, your mission statement. There were some things in your mission statement that I borrowed. That I borrowed for ours at the time.
Yeah.
Brandon, how many different people have you investigated with? Some of our new friends I know you've done different things with.
Yeah, I've kind of tagged along with a few different teams. I've kind of tagged along with GRASPP, tagged along with Darren and
Darren
Taff.
Dykehouse,
Yeah.
Lakeshore Paranormal.
And Ben from Afterlife Road and the MSU Paranormal group. Tagged along with him and looking forward to Paranormal XL, kind of investigating with them pretty soon. So
Right, and maybe, I don't know if you did anything with Ken Decker,
I have not investigated with him yet, I don't think.
but he's done stuff with some of the
Yeah.
other people. So
Yeah.
yeah, you get to know how they operate, and I think that's one of the first steps of the unity is to get to know each other,
Yeah.
how you operate.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
plus
and
that too, just being able to the ones the people that are so protective of their turf is well, you're blocking yourself from all the other places that everybody else, is investigating. Because if we all work together, we can all share locations with each other. We can all share ideas. That's what was so great about it. you know?
yeah.
And sharing places. If you bring another group in, and they gather the same information, same evidence.
Yeah.
Then that further corroborates yours.
Yeah.
And there's just more solid proof.
Or they might be able to gather some more information that you couldn't, because maybe someone on their group is better able to communicate with what's there, or maybe a spirit that's there might be able to better more comfortable communicating, or they're better able to. Then you have more information, and so when you investigate it, you have more information to go off of to try to gather, to learn more, because that's all it's about. It's about building more
Yep.
more and more onto what you know.
Yeah, and borrowing some of that stuff. We're going to talk about the Estes method at this point. I think this is a good place to put that in.
Yeah.
So while we were on the ship, we also got to do some fun investigating. And, there was a bunch of us there, and we're all running our own equipment. But we had different groups that were going in different directions. And what was interesting is that we found some common themes, even though none of us had actually discussed what we had been doing. And we decided to do an Estes method, and we got some really interesting results because I
yeah.
believe the gals from your
Yeah.
team there, Tammy and Jennifer,
Yeah.
they were out on the deck and they had gathered some names, some interesting evidence that they were doing out there, and those names actually came through on our Estes method. And it was actually really incredibly weird. I don't know if you guys have listened to any of those tapes yet.
I have not been able to. I wasn't there, so I
It
don't
is
have
on
the raw.
our YouTube channel.
It is.
Okay.
And
to
here's a
check
clip
that
for
out.
you guys. Oh wait, there's no clip.
No clip.
Oh,
clip.
the producer screwed us again.
But at any
Oh
rate,
well, go ahead and check out our YouTube channel. Oh,
Yeah.
nice segue.
I thought I saw something with you doing.
Yeah.
yes,
Dude, that entity had it out for me.
Oh, yeah.
it did. And
we wanna
it
get into a pissy
physically
match.
was speaking through these people.
Three
I had
different
witnessed
times.
like an actual visual thing happening, like the actual act of what had happened. And the girls had gathered like this voice stuff out on the deck where I had seen the very thing that they were recording, and that these very people were coming through in the Estes method, which I found was really fascinating because none of us had even discussed it up until that point.
Well, I knew of their little bit of thing because I was out on the deck when they started doing it.
I didn't know
But I
anything
didn't-
about it
I
because
didn't
I
talk
was
to
screwing with
anyone
the
about it.
phones.
Yeah, you were screwing with the phones.
So they had these cool dial phones on the ship, and all these different groups were in all these different places on the ship. So I'm like, hey, we got these cool crank phones, and I'm like, yeah, you put it on a number, grrr, and you crank it, and it rings.
Yep.
And I had one in my room.
So
And it
did
was
And
fabulous.
the worst part was is I got blamed for it all.
I know. Yeah. Blame Mike.
So
Yeah.
at any rate, I was busy screwing with everyone else's evidence.
Oh no.
So I had no idea that the gals had gathered that, or that Mike had been involved with any of that stuff. And that was it was an apparition that I had seen earlier that day, and I just didn't mention it to anybody because I figured I'd wait until after the summit was over and then we would talk about it.
Some
Tammy's on right
confirmation
now.
on
She goes,
that.
"Yeah, you got us good too."
Did anyone answer when you called?
I
pick
didn't
up?
wait long enough. I
Oh.
just kind of hung it up.
Oh, they must have thought Ghost is calling.
No, actually, when it first started, I go, that is weird. And then it kept happening more often. I'm like, I wonder if there's residual electricity still residing in the lines because they're
Right.
old. So every time it went off, I'm like, yeah.
Every time it went off, I was not in the room.
Oh man.
But I had
would've
good
been cracking
excuses,
up
so-
on that.
Oh,
I got them. It was all night. It was all Saturday. I got them.
yep.
They just could not. They kept coming up with explanations, and then they were like, "Well, that doesn't make any sense." And finally, it was Mike's fault.
Yeah. Well, no. I got blamed by your group.
I can believe that.
All I know is it was, damn it, Mike, quit screwing with us.
Yeah. Well, I think after you got our team or some members of our team on the LST, I think that kind of made
Oh,
it kind of easy
paybacks.
for 'em.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is when I investigate, I always like to keep things kind of lighthearted and keep the energy up because that's what things feed off of. So joking around, kind of messing with the group or other investigators helps kind of bring forth a little bit more energy. But then it also just gives me a nice laughing fit.
Yeah.
I seen Rick Wade jump out of his skin at St. Cecilia's Music Hall. Somebody scared him, hiding behind a door or something when he walked through. Oh yeah,
Some
that
people,
got
that's
the
really easy to
adrenaline
do.
flowing.
Oh yeah, especially in the dark. I mean, your group. I had members of your group out piss themselves. We were at a residence, and one of our former members comes in to go use the restroom, and I did a jump scare, caught it on camera, made her scream.
Yep.
Yeah, it can be fun for that.
The most fascinating thing, though, about this Estes method that we had done on there was that we had, we would take a break from it, and then we would put someone else under, the blindfold, and the same voices kept coming through on the 3 different sessions that we did. And the final session it actually got a little scary. Mm-hmm. And it was like it just picked up right where it left off.
Yeah.
And you can see that because we videoed all of it too. And
Well, there's the one where John and I were basically having a pissing match, and I threatened to kill him again.
yeah, so
John was the ghost.
I'm doing it this way due to the fact of, to me, it felt more like an entity that takes on the persona of a human.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we got into a pissing match.
and you got to remember this was on a ship that's sitting on water, and waters are natural for portals.
Mm-hmm.
So it opening up and allowing something to come in would not have been out of the realm of possibility.
How many lost souls are out there in that water?
Exactly. And, you know, a lot of times those portals will, from what I understand, come and go, open and close, and sometimes things come on through and they can't get back through because it closes before they can. So whether that was an entity messing with us, I don't know. It was just really fascinating results, considering that the people that were going under didn't really know much about what was happening or what was being said outside of, because they had headphones on.
Right.
And that's where the big thing where it's an advantage over the spirit box, like I was talking about before. Because when you're doing spirit box, everybody's listening for, but when you have somebody that's under and they don't know what the questions are, it makes the responses much more valid than everybody. What's your name? Oh, Fred. Oh, it's Fred. You know, like,
Yeah.
Right.
you know.
Yeah. This
Right.
device this is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Makes this a lot more legit, or any device that you use, especially if you have two people with the headphones on and the blindfold. That the blindfold makes you that much more aware.
And the thing is,
your
too, I
own
think it
world.
makes you more, it opens you up psychically.
Right.
Because you're
That's what I was gonna
depriving your
say.
senses. You're
Yep.
getting
Right.
rid of that distraction.
Well, and that was
You know.
frequently used by the military. You
Yeah.
know, they would put people in deprivation tanks to make them experience different things, especially when they studied, you know, they were studying in the 70s the psychic abilities
Yeah.
of people. And that was one of the things that they did to soldiers, is they'd throw them in a deprivation tank and just videotape it, and they got some really interesting stuff out of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think it's all that far out of the realm of possibility for us to open up that third eye by taking away all those other senses.
So if you're a team out there, you know, check into this Estes method. You know, it's something you might want to try. I really think it makes your evidence a little more legit.
Well, we'll put a disclaimer on that. It is a hit and miss with
Yeah.
anything. So
Because
the
you are
fact
going to
that-
get the radio through like you are with the, because it's a spirit box session.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a
It all
little more
depends on-
credibility with it without, but you're still going to get the words come through from the radio. And another warning I would have too with it if you're trying it out is because it opens you up psychically and it can open you up more to an attachment.
Yes.
So that's the big warning I would have with that, is to be careful
Absolutely.
if you're trying that.
Yeah,
Yes,
and we
you can be very
smudged
vulnerable.
everybody before leaving that ship. We smudged everybody because I didn't feel comfortable allowing them to leave the ship knowing that whatever we were talking to may not have been human.
Another good point to amateur ghost hunters out there.
So
Smudging protection.
Yeah, if nothing else, at least carry some, some tourmaline with you, black tourmaline. It's on my ring here. I carry it with me everywhere, and it's a very good warder for spirits, attachments, anything like that. It's, pushes that away from you, because that's a big thing. Anytime that you're using equipment like this, like we're doing the Estes method, anytime you're using any kind of spiritual equipment, you're using a tool.
Yeah.
And you're obviously very open to that because you're using it. So you're opening yourself up to other things. And you need to take a spiritual bath before you walk away from whatever you might have picked up.
You
That's
might
the
as
thing,
well.
too, with Estes, where it's kind of a little bit more because you're having them communicate through you.
Absolutely. You're
As
essentially being a
as opposed to
medium.
just using the tools, you yourself are becoming the tool to be able to use,
Correct.
as
And it
part of it,
opens you
too.
up to that. Like people, psychics, sensitives, we are normally open to those things. And so we know how to dump those out once we've passed that message on. But the Estes method is actually opening those people up to that may not necessarily have ever experienced that. And that is a cautionary tale.
Right.
Because some people come out of that and they feel really weird. Sometimes.
And that's like one of our team members. Like she did like an Estes method. Like she never had any psychic type of stuff going on. She got done with an Estes method and she just started crying, saying, I'm scared. And her voice was different. Like, because like me, Dan, and Wayne were downstairs and we were like, oh, the clients must be home or something, because it didn't sound like her. So we went up there and then they ended up saging her and then she was okay. But
It was frightening.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
it was a different voice. It wasn't
Yeah.
her voice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any sort of equipment they're using, you might as well be using a Ouija board, in my opinion. You're inviting the same kind of forces in.
Well, and you never know. You don't know what you're dealing with,
Yeah.
entity-wise. If you've grown up with it, if it's something that's always happened to you, you learn how to discern what those different things are. But if you're just opening yourself up, first of all, when you open that up, you don't ever get to close that door again. It doesn't happen. You don't get to close that door. Once you've opened yourself up to that other side, to that other world, those other dimensions that you're dealing with, you don't get to walk away from that because you are a beacon at that point.
You operate on a continuum after that. Yeah, there's no turning back.
You are connected to it.
Cross that threshold.
So you got to keep that in mind. But in that Estes method is a good opening for that.
Yeah.
Now, some people are really good. They just naturally block it out. Some people don't. So, yeah. So use it with caution.
It's good points. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting thing on the ship. Anything else I didn't cover Paranormal Summit there?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Well,
so
is it going to happen again next year?
we are working on doing that 4 times a year.
We're going to do 2 events and 2 dinners, just that way we kind of stay in
Okay.
touch. Or 3.
And though
Whatever.
they're not open to the public, this is something where you're going to have to kind of apply because we're going to be really picky about who gets to come in at first. Because we want to set those standards before we like just say, oh, hey, anybody can enter, because we want to be able to set those standards and we want to kind of work with each other, get to know each other and figure out what those standards should be.
Right.
So it's going to be kind of like a hit and miss application thing, and I think we're going to kind of just run it through the initial group that we had there, because we were kind of like we kind of,
The forefathers.
I guess. I hate to say it that way, but so we're going to be really, it's not going to be just open to the public. We don't want somebody who coming in that's like, they come in and 6 months later they decide, this isn't for me.
Or they're just
you
into
know.
entertainment hunting.
Yeah, we don't, entertainment
Right.
hunting is-
You know,
I know you're dealing with local, but there's people, like I get messages from people in Italy,
right.
all kinds of people in UK.
And at some point, it would be fabulous to open up
They're
to
on the
that.
same page with you guys.
Right,
Yeah.
but we just kind of want to keep it small where we can actually physically gather and talk about things, and figure out what exactly what goals we are trying to set there, so.
I compare it to, I was in an ISO program and when I worked in the factory, and it's just a matter of standards. You're trying to set standards in the industry, but you have to decide what you're going to agree to.
Right, right. So it's going to
It's
be
a step in
kinda-
the right direction, that's
so
for sure.
if you're interested in that, you're a group that's interested in it, you're an individual that's interested in that, you can go to our webpage, thegrasp.org, grasp.info. You can actually hit the contact us button on there, and you can send in an email, say, hey, I'm interested. And Bill and Connie are going to get that, and they're going to ask you some questions, and we're going to kind of look at it and figure out what we need to do. So if you're interested, let us know. We are looking for other groups, but currently we are trying to keep it small until we can really figure out how to expand and,
I know you're looking for ideas, input.
absolutely, absolutely, so. And,
Anybody to do anything to do with the paranormal authors?
yep, authors, YouTube people, groups, individuals who are, like Wayne over here who just, he's a rogue guy.
Lone wolf. I work with Preacher Man, though. If I don't know if you saw Preacher Man, you guys would get along.
Oh, yeah?
You got about the same beard almost. Preacher Man's got more gray in his, though. But he's got a
Yeah, I
beard
was going to
like
say, I'm
yours.
getting silver up here,
Yeah.
but not a whole lot here yet.
It starts out slow, Mike.
Yeah.
Look what happens.
It's going to bam, wake up one day. I'm a whitehead.
Yep.
Yeah, there's something I have to ask you about your hat. Tell me about your hat.
Well, part of smudging, because these are.
Clint's
do-
interested. Clint Beach. He was kind of upset I didn't say his last name. Clint Beach. Beach.
Is watching.
Yes, is watching and he's interested. Well, Clint, you heard how to contact us. Please do so, and we'll work on trying to get everything figured out.
Just tell him to write me.
Just
Write Connie.
Yeah, just write Connie. I mean, literally, just CONNIE. Just write that. Send
Because
it.
she
We'll
loves
be good.
those kinds of messages. So tell us about your hat here.
Well, significant to the Northwest the south, and the colors are significant, but I don't know. I must have covered the page up. But when I do my smudging, and like I say, it's pagan, so. And what I like here in Michigan is you don't know who you're communicating with the entity, like you said, whether it was even a living person.
Correct.
So you never know whether, and in this area, so many Indians that we ran into things that are so spooky. You talked about talking with other teams. I call the team from Detroit that had been doing it for 20 years because of something that we ran into that was so creepy. 3 different places that had the exact same descriptions of what was bothering them. They were doing salt baths. The one guy had an exorcism like a year before. Yeah, and these things that were attacking these people, 2 of the people were really close. They were a matter of just a couple blocks from each other. They didn't know each other, but yet they were describing the same thing. And I think a lot of these Indians have left some bad things for the white man.
I think I
the
would agree with you on that.
American Native Indians.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well,
they
and
got
this was
a
an
reason
area
to.
too where it's around like the S curve in Grand Rapids, and there were burial mounds where they put
I live
that
in
through.
Hesperia.
You
Look
know.
it up.
Oh,
I know all
I went
about
camping
Indian
up there. There were
curses.
burial mounds up there. I used to go and hang out around them when I was a kid because we used to camp up there too. But
But what I see in your hat here, these are Native American colors from the
Right.
medicine
Well,
wheel, correct?
Red represents the east, where the sun rises, giving birth to all knowledge. Yellow represents the south, where the southern winds bring maturity. Black represents the west, where man is reminded of the setting sun and that all things transition and end. And then white represents the north, where the Great Spirit lives, the creator of all things. And then I ask for help from the Great One. Pagan, totally pagan. But when I get to the end, I call on Jesus, because I want Jesus to close all the portals behind me. Any portals that might have accidentally got opened, I want closed behind me. And that's where I look for protection. So I tell people up front that, smudging is a pagan thing. I use sage, white sage. I've gravitated to Palo Santo wood now because of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I use crystals that I never used. You talked about your ring. I have that in a crystal form.
I do too, right here.
Okay. But other ones that I've added to my smudging bowl now. And I like the Palo Santo because it doesn't stink as much. Brandon's been there plenty of times.
I prefer the Palo Santo wood way over
Yeah.
the sage. I do not like I cannot be around the smell of like sage too much.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love the
It's
smell.
very
I-
pungent.
Oh.
I don't like it.
I smoked
It
up
makes
some
me
houses.
nauseous being around like the sage all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
one house where we were chasing mice out. I mean, we had a parade of mice in front of me. I was
We
like,
chased him to another team member,
Pied
and all of a sudden
Piper.
started screaming because all the mice were running to her.
So yeah, all about smudging though. I take it very serious, and whether it's there or not, I go through the smudging and in prayers. I do vary the prayers. I like to do one at the end where it's more of a hypnotic thing. I try to get into their mind a little bit, because in case it's just in their mind, I want to clear their mind also and put a protection around them, white light protection around them. So I bring in the light. I evoke the light all the time. But yeah, that's what that's all about.
Okay, so tell me about your beads.
Well, the beads I
You had
picked
some
those
other-
myself. Yeah, I picked them out myself. Those
It
nothing.
looked like you had crosses and things.
Yeah,
Let's talk
on the
about the other
front.
end. Let's talk about that.
Well, and I actually leave rosary with the people. Even though I'm not Catholic, I leave rosary with them and have the pastor bless it, and he's going to bathe you in holy water, because he's all hands on. That's what it's about. What we do is real close to exorcism, but it's not people that are possessed. It's people that are got an obsession with things, or they're being tormented.
That's also called oppressed.
Oppressed. That's what I'm looking for. Oppressed, not possessed.
Yep.
But it's real similar, and that I let him take care of that part. Like I said, I do my smudging part. If it's there, I do everything I can with the multiple prayers that I use. But I like the prayer of St. Francis. You're talking about this, and so I'm looking for peace for the dead and the living. I used to think my mission was just for the dead. Come to find out, it's harder to tell that you've done good for the dead. It's easier to tell that the family that you worked with is now back in the house that they wouldn't bring their children to before you started. It's
Yep.
easy to see the good you do for the living. Not as easy unless you're digging up bones and burying them. And we never dug up any bones.
Yeah. I don't remember you having those the last time we were in
Oh,
the
well,
studio
I
together,
use
so.
these, yeah.
I was gonna say, I know that Kathy and I last year when we were doing just the video on Facebook, doing our own podcast and stuff, we actually did a segment on tools and protection and stuff. And like the one thing is an entity, whether it believed in a religion or has knowledge of religion, whatever, the person as well has to, either the people we're helping out
Yeah.
don't have to believe in it either. It's a tool, and it helps bring closure to them. And the one thing that definitely needs to be noted is when you are helping out someone like that, you need to tell them that once everything's smudged and cleaned and whatever's out, it's your responsibility to fill that void that let them in.
Yep.
Because if
Good
you do
positive
not,
energy.
Yep, because if you
Yeah.
do not fill that with positive energy, love, whatever, it will come back in.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. You're starting out with a blank slate once we're done, but that's your responsibility from that point. And I've seen these families that are arguing and they don't really know why. They don't understand where this hostility is coming from, and it's from this entity.
From an entity that's
Right.
That's what they feed on is chaos. Some of them. So that's, you know.
Yeah. To get me there, you don't have to have heard noises, bumps in the night. It's just if you've experiencing that energy, that your energy has changed, then call me. We never charge. I don't think you guys ever charge.
No, we don't charge.
Nope.
Right.
Nope. And
Brandon,
If you
they
have a
don't
good
charge.
team, they don't charge.
I think one of our
Like,
segments
that's-
we'll have to have you and the preacher in here, and
Oh, preacher man.
I think we'll
Oh,
talk
you
about
got to
that
watch
one
out
day.
for him.
'Cause
You
I-
turn him on like he does
I
very
just
well.
want to say that to people that are out there looking, there's a lot of really good teams out there that will do it for free. The people that are doing it for money, I would stay away from because
Yeah,
they're not in it for the right reason.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put a little side note on that though.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
Well, they might
asking
not.
if
I
you're
can't
asking
speak for
someone to
every
come
single
across
one.
3 states to come and check out
For
your place,
reimbursement
Right.
for like travel costs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's understandable. But like if they're just in it for making money off and using people, because there are people in the paranormal field that do that where they take advantage of people. That's the thing I'm just saying is to be careful.
Yeah,
of,
I
is
think that those
that you're
people
looking
are
for people that are looking to
probably
help you.
frauds.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody walks into your house and says, "If you pay me $100, I'm going to get rid of your spirit,"
That's what I'm referring
walk
to.
away
Yep.
because they can't guarantee that.
Yeah.
We've shown up at places that were in a whole nother town or city, and they forgot we were coming. They weren't there. So, I mean, we added a clause at that if we do that once, the next time, then we hope for a reimbursement for gas.
Yeah.
And I know you guys put on there that you would accept donations, and we had that too. We've been offered donations. They were offered donations and never accepted any because usually these people are so distraught already. They don't need another burden.
Yes.
So I know there's going to be situations though, like you say, if you go on long distances, yeah, maybe you want some reimbursement.
Yeah, and that I think is,
Yeah.
hey, are you going to put me up at your place for the,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I don't think that that's too, outrageous to ask that. But, if I'm going 2 towns over and it takes me an hour to get there, like, Hesperia to Grand Rapids, for instance, an hour and a half, I'm not going to ask somebody for money to come and cleanse your house.
Right.
That's just crazy.
I say I will come to your house and spend the night if I have to now with the way I do it now. But I'm not there to research. I'm not there to tell you, yeah, you have a ghost. I mean,
Right.
You better know you have something before you call me and you want to get rid of it, because that's the only reason I'm there is to get rid of it.
Correct. And that's the difference between investigators and cleansers.
Right. I'm not
You know.
investigating anymore. That's the difference.
I
You
do
asked that
both.
question early on, right?
I do both, and it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to make that distinction. So I think that's a good thing to just kind of drive in one direction or the other, because sometimes you're a little torn, with what you want to do there. because you know that there's something there, but you can't catch anything on a camera.
We've dealt with mediums that were such wild cards. We didn't know. 'Cause that's how I was saying, how does GRASPP use you? And we didn't necessarily know how. We thought knew how we wanted to use this medium, but she was such a wild card. She did what she wanted. She'd be there the first time, and she would be putting them at rest. And I go, well, we used to process. We like to prove to the people, yeah, you're not crazy, and show them some proof before we get rid of the ghost. But yeah, they kind of messed up our process. The people that were the wild cards, because we like to do a three-step process, and then they would right away be trying to put the spirit at rest. And I'm like, we haven't proven anything to the client yet that they're not crazy, because they all think they're crazy.
Right. Well, some of them do. Some are like, I know this is happening.
Oh, well,
You know?
Most of ours, it usually comes in, I think I might be crazy, but that's
right.
kind of like how it
Yeah.
it starts with a lot when they contact, And
Well, and if you're going to work with a medium, with a group, you really got to have those rules set forth before you set them, because mediums are going to do what they do.
yeah,
And that every medium is called to do something different. So if you don't have those rules set, like, Bill and Connie kind of just tell me, this is what we need you to do. And then I'm like, okay,
yeah,
But if somebody's not going to give me any rules, I'm going to walk in there. I'm going to do what I think morally, ethically needs to be done.
and I think that's what this
So-
one was doing at the time. She felt that needed to be done right then, and I actually applaud her for that, because that's our ultimate goal, is to put the spirits at rest.
Well, yeah, and you don't want to, if you've got an angry spirit, you don't want to leave them, so that you can get your evidence. You don't want to leave that family in a state of distress so that you can get evidence.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of times
That's a horrible way to do things.
activity will pick up after you've been in there a lot of times.
Absolutely, because you're in there stirring it up.
Yep.
Bringing a medium in is an absolute, it's going to happen. I mean, if you want stuff to start happening, bringing a medium in is going to make that happen. But a medium can also sometimes calm that down. So if it's already raging. So it sounds like we need to wrap up, though. That's what Connie's telling me over here.
I bet.
So we are looking for more paranormal guests. If you are individual author, do some YouTube, you're a group, you'd like to come on and talk about what you do something unique, we'd really love to hear about that. Paranormal topics, we try to stick with, cryptids, ghosts. We like all the weird phenomena that's happening. I'd even be like, hey, bring a couple scientists on, let's talk about this weird phenomena, prove me wrong. I'd be okay with that, those kind of guests, because we like skeptics just as well as we do believers here.
Oh, that's the one thing too. Like with our group, I do believe in it. I know it. I've seen it. I felt it. But I always go in skeptical, no matter what. That's the one thing people who have abilities need to remember, is you can't go in going, oh, there's something here, because you could just be reading the energy of the clients
Right.
that are still residing on whatever.
Yep.
You always got to
Excellent
go
point.
in and try debunking everything first.
Yes. You should always find your normal explanation first, and then go on to your paranormal when you just can't explain it anymore.
Debunking is a big word in your mission statement.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. You use
And
that
that's
more
what
than
we
once.
do.
Yep.
We walk in and we debunk. When we can't debunk, then we really study it. Because then we've got something that we need to really look at and figure out, one, why can't we debunk it? And two, what is it if we can't debunk it? So that's
Good
really,
point, Mike. Yep.
really important to us. So I just want to give you guys a chance to plug your groups here, your individual. If you've got some websites, this would be the time.
Okay. Well, I'll let you, Wayne, talk about our podcast, the Grand Rapids Ghost Hunters podcast. But for mine, my team is Kent County Paranormal. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com. I think it's / Kent County Paranormal. You can message us there. That's the easiest way if you want to get a hold of us. Like I said, right now we are on break from doing home investigations, but if you need any help or want any advice, we're still there to be able to answer messages and stuff like that, or be able to do a phone call. And then Yeah, then let Wayne, if you want to talk about our
Right.
our
You can
podcast.
find Brandon, myself, Kim Colleen here, and with spooky people.
So if you
the
like
whole-
this show, check
Right.
that one out on the Kent County Paranormal Podcast as well.
The Whole Picture podcast right here on WKTV, and then now I'm doing Cryptic Frequencies blog talk radio show, which is at Spiritual Voices podcast, which is the same thing, the same show. It's radio. So, but this is so nice. This format here, I love this format. And then I'm doing the spiritual cleansing with Preacher Man. But you can get my number on the show here next week when GRASPP will be back. Connie Jones and Bill Jones will be back so we can talk GRASPP stuff some more para unity, I'm hoping. So thanks so much for having us.
Yes, well, thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
We want to thank WKTV for allowing us the use of the space. That was fabulous of them. You can also find GRASPP on Facebook. He's got all those fancy / things. Just go
Yeah.
to Facebook, look up GRASPP. You'll find us. And you can also find us on YouTube. And we are on, what's our other format there?
I don't know if those
You know,
ones are working
just
right
on the
now.
web, the
Yeah.
.org, .info.
They're easy to find. Lunch.
Yeah. And like I said, you can always contact us, you know, if you're looking for the Paranormal Summit, if you're looking for, oh, yeah, we have email too. GRASPP Beyond at grasp.org. That's where you can find us. And you can also go to our GRASPP website, hit the contact button, and you're going to get a hold of us anyway. So that's all good. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. And I guess we'll see you next time. Peace out.
The opinions expressed in the preceding program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.